And confidence is one of the biggest things of Corso needs as well, because when you develop fear in them, he rolled at you.
What are you doing?
A fearful Corso is not good, and some genetically are that way, and that's where it really is important for people to buy from educated breeders. Educated breeders know this, and they don't breed that temperament. We temperament test our puppies so that we know where they're falling. We don't want to put our most driven puppy that wants to grab and tug everything in a home with small children, because they're going to run around grabbing the children, and that's never a good fit. So, but yeah, when you're breeding dogs that have temperament issues, now you have puppies that have temperament issues, and no matter how good those people may be in their great intentions, they're set up to fail because their breeder set them up to fail. So I think that's where, buying from educated breeders is important. Don't buy a dog from someone just because it was cheap and it's cute and you felt sorry for it, and then get a hold of someone like me and expect me to hold your hand while you train the dog.
1,
Yeah.
2,
Yep.
3,
Yep.
4,
Yep.
5,
Yep.
6,
Yep.
7.
Yep.
Over here
And Michelle
too.
has 8. But yeah, so I used to spend a lot of time with people who bought their dogs elsewhere and they just needed help. In the middle of the night, they would call 2 a.m. This is what my dog's doing, is it okay? You know,
2 a.m.
yeah. And, my puppy family's great, fine. I'll wake up and I will answer the phone and I'm going to help you, but it took a few years, and it's probably been 3 years now that I've had that, I've had to step back and take that mentality of, I'm sorry that you didn't buy breeder support with your dog. Here are some internet resources you can go to that can possibly help you, but, you should reach out to your breeder, and I'm sorry that your breeder isn't there for you. I think transparency is so key, because this industry, for instance, right now, we have, we run a group on Facebook, and even someone who I thought was a friend, she has turned into, oh, you're living off of your dogs, and you're puppy miller, and you're this, and you're that. And these are all the negative things that, we grind it out for literally 16 to 18 hours a day, because this is what we do, and we try to do it to the best of our ability. As breeders, not only are we trying to plan what's best, but we have to be preemptive in all the negative feedback that's going to come to you. It's important for people to not be so judgmental. Like I said, we've been doing this for 13 years, and we started out with dogs that really weren't the best quality dogs, but through education, we rehomed the dogs that we started out with. Because they weren't the quality. Once I learned more about the breed, I learned the quality that we needed, then, we did research and we bought new dogs. And those, yep, keep wiping it. Those new dogs didn't grow up to be what...
They're dried up.
Okay, well, yeah, but you just gotta rub it a little bit more. Those new dogs did not turn out to be what we wanted either. So now we've invested twice into what we want to be a breeding program, and you have to have the mentality, and I guess we call it kennel blind, to if you look at your dog and you're like, oh, he's perfect, and somebody educated looks at it and says, not so much, kennel blind. You just think your dog is wonderful because it's your dog.
Yeah.
You're not able to look at him with that judgmental eye.
So from what you've learned, so you probably became way more educated on the breed standard, right? So for a person that's looking for a Cane Corso, right? What are some things that you can maybe notice right away that is off about maybe this breeder's Cane Corso, or in comparison to what a Cane Corso should look like?
My biggest, every breeder has a style they like.
Okay.
We all, I can't say we all, but you sure do. most breeders should breed towards the standard.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things that are my pet peeves are, the easiest way for me to describe it is it's a Neapolitan Mastiff influence. You'll see a high rear and a low chest.
Okay.
A Corso should not be built like a hot rod. They should have a level top line. They shouldn't have that low chest. A Neapolitan Mastiff is known for, and is in their, I believe it's in their breed standard, for having that low chest. That breed's standard. So we don't want our Cane Corso to look like that. The other thing that is kind of prevalent, but it's not a Cane Corso thing, is the heavy wrinkles in the face. You don't need a big wrinkly face to have a big dog. And we'll show you Fig, and you'll have a great example to show all of your audience anytime they want to say, well, it's a big dog, so they have a sloppy face. That's no excuse. There's no excuse for all this wrinkle. The Corso should have wrinkles upon expression, which means they should. I know you use them all. I'm holding them. So a Corso shouldn't have all that. When you look at them, the rear end can sometimes get weak. And I wish that I had something to show you, to give you an example, but if the dog looks knock-kneed in the back, that's, yeah, like the hocks, which are, it's not really their knee, but people see it as a knee, where the hind leg bends.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Here.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
If the dog looks like those areas are coming together, like it's knock-kneed in the rear end, that's poor structure, poor conformation. They shouldn't be breeding that. The back, if you go from the head, I have puppies right here. They're not ideal to use, but you go from the head and the neck, and even as a baby, you can see this puppy is pretty level. And you really don't get the structure until they get bigger, but so it should be one continuous, nice, smooth line. You shouldn't have a dip here and a big hump here. And that is a huge fault within the breed, and a lot of people are breeding dogs that have that. So as a breeder, head and top line and structure, which is your legs, you want them straight. They shouldn't be like this, they shouldn't be like this. They need to be straight. And that's where people get, all the time we get, well, I don't need a show dog. And they feel like they don't need to buy from a breeder who has show dogs because their dogs are more expensive. Well, what that show dog is giving you correct structure. Getting a breeder from someone who shows means that their stock has been evaluated to the standard. And that means not that every person buying from them wants a show dog, but that means that you're getting a correct, conformed, healthier dog, because those joints that we talked about are not formed right. And maybe this joint this leg is completely straight and there's no bend. That's not correct either. Or if it's weak and these two legs come together, that's weak. And what that does is create other orthopedic problems. So I think people get confused as to, I don't need a show dog, but those show dogs give you correct conformation, which should lead to less orthopedic problems versus one that is 6 months old and riddled with health problems. Maybe you didn't pay as much for it, but now you're going to spend 10 times as much in vet bills. So
it's important to do your research before, instead of making like a rash decision, buying like the cheapest dog because it kind of looks good, and then having to deal with it later.
Well, and the other thing is that most families who are looking for a dog, they don't know what they're looking for in a puppy. So I'll see this all the time on social media. Look at our new Cane Corso puppy. I'm a breeder, I have a totally different eye. And I see, oh my God. I would never put that out in public, ever, right? Because it's terrible. And where my heart goes is those poor people saw the beautiful Cane Corso and they wanted a Cane Corso. And that's what they got, and it's never going to look anything like the dog that they originally fell in love with.
One time we went pumpkin picking with Dante when he was a puppy, and we had a couple of people come up to us, and one couple in particular came up to us like, wow, is that a Cane Corso? And we were like, yeah, you know, we told them where we got him from and everything, and they told us that they got a Cane Corso, but it ended up being mixed with like a boxer or something like that. And how that created really serious temperament problems with and they had a kid who was with special needs. So I don't know what happened to the dog afterwards, but it was, I think that's also like one of the examples, you know, that maybe they saw what a Cane Corso looks like, and then when they went to purchase it, they didn't exactly know what to look for, and they ended up with a dog that wasn't good for them.
What should be like big red flags? If you go to a breeder and you look at their dogs, what should be a thing that instantly like says like run away and don't?
Or this is sketchy, like this is not.
Will they let you handle their dogs?
Okay.
I don't have a dog here. With me present, I can let them all out. A Corso should be aloof with strangers. They shouldn't need to be your best friend immediately. And we have a couple that are a little more standoffish, where they're going to evaluate you first. But these dogs shouldn't be aggressive in that manner with their owner present, unless you're a threat. You know, if you come in and you're a threat, Uno is really good about circling people, and we call him our people. He's kind of our second application. So he's the one who went running past you, and you were fine. But we'll send him out, and we'll say, don't reach and pet him, because you'll get a different dog if you just reach and pet him. He'll circle you, and then he comes and you get the lean, and you're good. Life is good. So if a breeder won't let you interact with their dogs, not good at all. And you also want to be able to see these dogs and look at them for yourself. Pull up the breed standard and look at it. Look at the dog's back. Look at the dog's legs. Look at the dog's face. Does it look like it's supposed to? And both parents, because even though dad looks great but mom looks terrible, well, half a litter is going to look like mom. And if you as a buyer, if you don't know what that looks like as a puppy, and if you're like, oh, I bought it because the dad's so cool, but you might get one that looks like mom, and you're not going to be happy with that. Size is a factor. The Corso was not intended to be 150 to 170 pound dog, and that's in today's market right now. People are bragging about how big their dogs are. A Corso is not supposed to be that big. A nice, fit, healthy male, top of the range, 140, 145 pounds. That's where they should be, because this dog was meant to work. And at 175 pounds, they might run to the end of the driveway, but that's it. So you don't want them oversized. And does the breeder raise these puppies in their home with their family? You know, some of them just have them out in an auxiliary building, and the mom is with the puppies and they're not interacting with them. And when you pick that puppy up, you're really its first, you know, holding them and doing all these things with them, and they're fearful. And that sets you figure, when these puppies turn 4 weeks old, they're 3 weeks, they're going to go out into the bigger area. And from there, they really start their cognitive function. And that's when we start interacting with them. You know, in here, they get played with, they learn that we are, you know, who they want to go to. But if a puppy is just let to raise itself, they're terrified when you take them home. And it's not a good experience. So, you know, does your breeder interact with their puppies? Are their puppies, when you go out there, do their puppies go to them? Or are they more reserved? Because your breeder might be one of those, raw, I have to be alpha people. And if the puppies are raised that way, you're already getting a dog that's fearful of the person they should be trusting. So we don't want them fearful.
Not too big.
Not too big. They should allow you to interact with their dogs. They should be able to control their dogs. And they should be welcoming. You know, if you look up, you know, a Corso should be welcoming of friendly strangers, as long as you, as their owner, is okay with it. We've only had a couple times people have ever come here, and Uno circled, backed up, and just started barking obsessively. We rely on his instincts. So those people were told that, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is, but we're not selling you a puppy. And they get mad.
Our dog doesn't like
you. I'm sorry.
He didn't pass Uno.
Right. And
That's
yeah,
really interesting because we noticed that with Dante a lot. We noticed that like some of our closest friends, they come into the house. We have a friend that he never saw, and he's very, very strange, just more than he should be. So one of Michelle's friends came over, and he was like instantly like, "Hey, you're great. I love you. I love you. I love you. You're the best." But then some other people might come in, and like it doesn't matter like how much we introduce. He's always like, "What's wrong with you?"
he's always got an eye on him.
And he might, it's funny because his face changes. Like he might be there and the girl is like scratching his head, and her new boyfriend like that might be there for the first time. He just looks at him and his face goes from like, "Oh, this is the best feeling in my life because I'm getting all these scratches." So like, what is that guy doing?
Right.
Why is he looking at you like
Why
that?
is he looking at me? What does he want?
They're extremely intuitive dog. Your breeders should be willing for you to come visit. Now that is a loaded, kind of a loaded question when someone says, "Can I come see your dogs?" Because this is kind of an exception. You have no dogs with you. You came straight from there to here. I know you're clean. Well, you're as clean as you can be, right? But I don't allow people, just general public, people I don't know, to come in when I have puppies under 6 weeks old. Because there's too much risk to them. And we've talked about, it's my responsibility to protect them. And if I just allow people to come visit whenever they want, and sure you can pet the babies, no, you can't touch the babies because I don't know who you are, I don't know where you've been, and I don't know if you've been around sick dogs. So that would be me being irresponsible by risking their lives. So if a breeder says, "No, you can't come right now because I have young puppies," that's not a shady breeder. That's actually a good response. You know, I welcome you to come after they've been vaccinated, come play with them, you know, do whatever you want, but right now, no. You know, they already have contamination from being in the vets, having their tails, some breeders do claws, having that done. So they're in the vet's office exposed to potential things there. And then they go in again at 7 weeks for ear crops and we're exposing them again. So we already have enough risk in their life, we don't need to increase it.
Right. You talked about docking their tails and the ear crops too. So we personally get a lot of criticism for that because of, you know, Dante, that it's cruel, that it's inhumane, that why would you do that to your dog? So what are your thoughts about that?
Ear cropping for us is purely cosmetic. This is a huge debate and people will argue with me. For us, personally, our experience, I've owned dogs with full ears, I've owned dogs with crop ears, and I have had dogs with full ears have chronic ear infections, and I've had plenty of crop ear dogs have chronic ear infections. I don't feel like the act of cropping the ear prevents the ear infections. So for us, it's purely cosmetic. We allow our families to make that decision. If you want the ears cropped, it is something that we offer. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. And as far as the infections, I feel like the dog is it's sort of like people, the dog is either prone to that or they're not. Now the tails, we do all the tails. Tails is not optional. If you want a dog with a tail, you can't buy one from us. When we take them in and the vet does them, they do it as a vet procedure. They're sutured afterwards. And oftentimes they come home and they're a little whiny that day. I expect them to be a little cryy, throughout the rest of that day. But the next day, everything's done. Mom cleans up, mom's licking their tails. And I don't like banding. I know some people swear by it. Me personally, it's not for me. I've never done my own dew claws and I've never seen someone do their own dew claws, so I can't comment on that, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. But we leave the dew claws on now. Dante does not have his. So this is new. I was reading, it was just last year, that they've done a lot of studies in working dogs that they actually use their dew claw a lot when they're running and they're turning. This dew claw, which is essentially the thumb, is making contact with the ground. And this is grabbing, and it prevents a lot of stress from coming up the leg, because without this, they're more apt to slide out. They're having to do a lot more with these 4 claws, which is putting more stress all the way up into the shoulders, and they're seeing orthopedic issues within the shoulders. So, based on the fact that, we touched on, we expect our families to be involved. I feel like, you know, they're willing to trim a dew claw. And that's really the biggest thing, is trimming the dew claws. So we leave them on now, because if we can prevent an injury, I feel like we need to do that, because even if you have a house dog, they're still running around in the yard, you're throwing the ball, and they're, you know, those are things that are gonna help them. So that's why we made the decision, leave the dew claws.
Right. Speaking of trimming, I remembered that a couple of people asked us about trimming their nails when they're bigger. So some people said that, you know, they trimmed their nails, but as they got bigger, the dog just wasn't being very cooperative after some time. So do you have any tips for that, for trimming their nails?
A lot of the negative that we get from the dogs, you know, they just won't let me do it, they won't sit still. They're not objecting to what you're trying to do, they're objecting to you trying to hold them and confine them. So that happens a lot with when we remove our sutures from our puppies. And I learned this from a vet. You know, I gotta hold the dog really still so he can do the perfect job. And he would come to our house and he said, just, you know, they're fighting you holding them. So what we do with our dogs, I come from horses, so it's just natural for me. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it works. We do all of our dogs standing. Once they're bigger, they stand. I hold their feet like how a farrier would trim a horse's foot. You know, and with the back legs, we can maybe pull one of them out and I can show you, but with the back legs, I allow them to lean on me if it's an older dog and they need some support. But they don't fight that so much because they're in a standing position. All you're asking them to do is pick up a foot. Not that they're all great when you do that, it's not the solution for all. And some that are really, really bad for the nails. I saw something on YouTube, a person had made their own sling. And they put the dog in the sling and they lifted it slightly up off the ground. That's a fantastic idea. Now putting 100 Corso on there, you know.
the walls are gonna come down.
Right, yeah, he doesn't really know it's
structural walls.
Right.
Well, this took a turn, huh?
Yeah, so this is Buster from Patent Pending Pythons.
You can get a visual of the patent pending right here on Aiden. Show him your shirt. There you go.
Wow.
Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing with these pythons?
So Buster he's one of a kind. We only have one of him. He is a Burmese python. And Buster's job, so we breed the snakes and then we go to shows and they're on display and people stop and sell them. Buster is the same breed of snake, being a Burmese python, as the ones you see people taking pictures with, the big yellow snakes, and they charge you $5 to take a picture with them. He's the same exact, so he'll get that big, believe it or not. And people can take pictures with him. So Buster's kind of going to be the mascot, I guess, for lack of better terms. He'll be our mascot. So he's the one that people can handle and touch. And then mainly what we take to the shows is babies to sell. And it's primarily his thing. I was terrified of snakes a year and a half ago.
And how can people get in touch to you guys? And are you guys selling those snakes already, or are you still developing?
Yeah,
so
we have some
how do people get to do that if I want to buy a snake?
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
And anywhere in the U.S., or do you guys only sell like
We
around
ship
here?
across the U.S.
We ship across the U.S. Awesome.
I recommend you guys getting a snake. I mean, it's pretty cool.
I'm really considering right now.
He's kind of cuddly. Like he's kind of warm, and he's like in a little ball right now.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but the vaccines are quite.
See if
Where you going? Really?
this is
So what do you think, Michelle?
It's very like
Siamese, like a Siamese cat.
It's huge.
See the, hang on,
It's pooping on.
color on the nose.
Oh
It
yeah.
is pooping.
And peeing.
Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
I mean, if I were to see
It's on the
my
the
predator being handled by someone, I would also probably poop and pee.
Right. Oh my God, there's a snake right there.